just touched my neck, so it's going to be red now. I told you that I was going to try and be better about updating you as things are happening, so that is what I'm doing now. The last video I made, I was talking about how we had recurrent implantation failure with our IVF treatments. After our last frozen embryo transfer was a fail, we put everything on hold and decided to get more testing done to see if there was something else that we could figure out as to why these transfers aren't working. I had a friend that had been telling me about this doctor that she worked with in New York, who is a reproductive immunologist. We decided to get some testing done with him. When we first set out on this quest to find more answers, we went to his website to request a free consultation over the phone. I believe that was in November, and they scheduled us for a free phone consultation in May of 2019. Well, I'm impatient and I was not going to wait till May. Instead of waiting to have that phone consultation with him, to hear him say, we need to do some more blood work and see what's going on with all of your genes and da-da-da-da, I knew we needed to do that anyways, so we just did the fast track. With fast tracking, I called the office and I got all the blood work set up. We had to do a couple panels at a local lab. I talked about in my last video us getting a phlebotomist to come to our house to do the huge immunology panel. That was simply because there was no lab in my area that would even do it. They didn't know how to, and they said they had never taken that much blood before. We completed that blood work over a several week period. Then we had to wait another 4 or 5 weeks to get all of the blood work analyzed and all the reports to be created. I called Dr. B's office in New York and had them schedule a phone call with him so that he could interpret the results of our blood work. Now, I personally got a copy of these results, and I have to tell you, they made my head spin. I have a little bit of education in genetics. Most of the detail I know about science and the body has to do with the brain, so I was a little bit lost when it came to natural killer cells and immune issues. I just had no idea, so I had to be patient. I finally got the date. I've used the analogy before about feeling like I'm in a boat with no paddle in the middle of the ocean and not having any type of help to get back to shore. To have that phone call planned felt like having a carrier pigeon come out to us and drop a little note and say, I'm gonna send a guy out and he may have a way for you to get back to shore. I know that's a really stupid analogy, but honestly, just the possibility that he might be able to help us and get us out of this situation was huge. The morning of the call, I took off work. I think that it was important for us to have the phone call together and be able to talk about it afterwards. We were both so anxious. We were pacing around. We were really nervous, excited, a little bit worried. All the emotions were kind of coming up. But ultimately, we felt comfort knowing that we were about to talk to this brilliant doctor who has spent so many years of his life trying to figure out why women have recurrent pregnancy loss. Our call was supposed to be at 11 a.m. We called in and he was actually finishing up with a patient. Take a look. We're about to call Dr. Braverman. We're both very stressed.
Okay, it should just be about 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Anticlimax.
That 15 minutes turned into 30 minutes. got the call.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, hold on 1 second here. All right, so let's go down the list. I'm just going to focus on the things I think are pertinent. Your genetics, we look at your HLA. You have what's called the complete 8.1 extended haplotype, and that's the most common thing I see here in this practice because these women always tend to have some underlying immune issues. You have the genes that predispose to things like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, antiphospholipid syndrome, very common issues that we see here. You're not making any antibodies against your husband's genetics, which is very good.
Good.
You have a gene defect called a 4G, 5G polymorphism. And all of these things tend to relate to the same diagnosis, where I think you're going to end up having endometriosis. I think, when I look at everything going on here, you have a family history of endometriosis, you have a history of implantation failure, you have an ectopic pregnancy, you have pain with your periods, pain with ovulation. I mean, everything here is pointing towards endometriosis. You have a gene called the DQ beta 0301, which is independently probably the most common gene that we see associated with endometriosis. And then you have those elevated natural killer cell, IL-17 cells, which we also see elevated in people with endometriosis. Now, we know that about 80% of the people that have endometriosis also tend to have some insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is what leads to adult onset diabetes when you get older. When you're younger, it interferes with egg development, implantation, and so something else that we typically treat as well. So the question is, what do we do? Step one is you need a laparoscopy. And we've got to look, not only see if you have endometriosis, but we've got to clean out what is likely inflamed peritoneum. What I'm going to recommend, though, is that you come here to New York for this laparoscopy. It's got to be done right, or we just don't see the same success. And then we talk about transfer, doing IUIs, doing IVF. We can discuss that second. You got to get through stage 1 first.
Yeah.
And by the way, your case is pretty common. I see this all the time.
Okay.
So, we're pretty comfortable how to handle it.
It's very nice to hear that we're common. That's the one time we want to hear that. So.
You're very common. Sorry to say.
No,
I'll tell
fantastic.
you what, and you're what is most commonly missed by most of the other fertility centers, because it's just beyond the scope of their expertise. They have no background in immunology. They have no way to make these complicated diagnoses. All right, hold on a second. I'll give you Judy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
I feel. Do you feel good?
I just feel sick that all of this years
Could have just been done by going to this guy. We were basically trying to screw a screw in with a hammer, is what we've been doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of feelings there about the results. I feel relieved that he saw something in my results. Not only did he find something, but he found something that he always finds in women who have recurrent pregnancy loss. I have a genetic predisposition to endometriosis. Apparently, I have symptoms of endometriosis, which I've never deemed as symptoms because I thought everybody had painful periods. And sorry for the TMI, but when I first started seeing my gynecologist years and years ago, when my husband and I moved back to Texas, she told me that pain with sex was probably due to my tilted uterus. I was really relieved to hear that I don't have any antibodies that would basically kill Daniel's genetics, which is something that I thought could be a possibility, but I'm relieved to know that that is not an issue. Everything on that call made me hopeful that I could carry our child someday and that this was going to work for us eventually. We're headed off to New York next week so that I can have a laparoscopy done to diagnose me with endometriosis and remove it. Having the surgery doesn't scare me. I think having the surgery and them not finding anything scares me a little bit, just because of the expense that this is costing us, and to go through all of this and them say, well, there was nothing in there, would just be like, no looking back. We know what we know now. We just have to keep looking forward to the possibility that this could happen for us. Try and regenerate some hope that was lost a long time ago, and keep going. And this laparoscopy feels like the first step in a fresh perspective. I'll be sure to do some filming on our trip and post an updated video when I have an update. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you caring about our story, and I hope that we have some good news soon. Bye!